Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with a Spain news update. And motorists, get ready because yesterday the government confirmed that a new toll system will be up and running soon. But more about that in just a moment. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that supported the channel through a donation. You can see your name here. Thanks to people that bought merchandise, and a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your ongoing support. Now, let's get into the news. And as I said yesterday, the government confirmed that a new toll system will be implemented on roads around the country, but they don't want to use the word toll. As we can see here, the government confirms that it will charge tolls for the use of motorways and dual carriageways in Spain. The government has confirmed that it will charge a toll for the use of motorways. Sergio Vázquez, the Secretary General for Infrastructures of the Ministry of Transport, Mobility and Urban Agenda, has assured this, saying that they do not want to call it a toll. He acknowledged that the government is going to implement a pricing system, but asked that the term toll not be used. The Secretary for Infrastructures pointed out, after participating in the Conversa Forum, that it makes no sense that there should be this vacuum and that the maintenance and upkeep of the infrastructure should continue to be paid for with the taxes of all Spaniards who have more urgent needs such as social policies. So there we go, a new pricing system to be implemented, but as we saw, the government doesn't want it to be known as a toll, because apparently the word toll has a negative connotation, so better to use the concept of a pricing system. How stupid does this government think that we are? Now, as I mentioned in yesterday's video, the 10-year anniversary of the ETTA terrorist group's ceasefire has been celebrated, and it's dominating headlines still today. As we can see from this headline, the figures of ETA's barbarity: more than 850 murders, 2,600 wounded, and almost 90 kidnapped. From the civil guard, José Antonio Pardines, the first civil guard killed by ETA on the 7th of June 1968 in Villabona in Guipúzcoa, to the French gendarme Jean-Serge Nerin, the last of its fatal victims, on the 16th of March 2010 in Damary-les-Lys near Paris. The terrorist group killed 856 people in almost 42 years, 20 of them minors, according to the data handled by the Foundation of Victims of Terrorism, a figure that the Ministry of the Interior, which only counts compensated victims, puts at 853, and that the Foronda report, commissioned by the Basque government, puts at 845. ETA's bloodiest period was the so-called Years of Lead between 1978 and 1980, when the gang murdered 244 people. In 1980 alone, it killed 97 victims. These years also accounted for most of ETA's crimes that remain unsolved, 10 years after the announcement of the end of the armed activity. So the figures, as we saw, of that terrorist group's barbarity here in Spain: 850 dead and more than 2,600 people wounded. And as I said yesterday, thankfully it is no more. Now, the cannabis legalization debate that was brought to the parliament a couple of weeks ago by a few of the left-wing parties here has been knocked on the head. As we can see here, the PSOE, PP and Vox overturned the law to decriminalise the legal use of cannabis. The votes against the PSOE, PP and Vox in the Congress of Deputies have prevented the first comprehensive law for the legalisation of cannabis proposed by Mas País from going forward, with the aim of regulating the medicinal use, purchase and sale of the substance, as well as its self-consumption and professional cultivation. The measure, backed by Unidas Podemos, has not received the support of the socialist group, which has justified its decision because there is already a subcommittee on the matter in the lower house. So there we go. It seems that Spain is not going to decriminalise cannabis use anytime soon, as the two major parties, the PSOE and the PP, along with Vox, don't want the idea to go ahead. So Spain's a progressive country for some things, but not when it comes to cannabis use. Now, the Plus Ultra bailout case is back in the headlines today. You might remember this case of a failed airline that got a lot of government money, and a lot of people couldn't work out why this company received that money. And now, according to El Mundo newspaper, the government allows Plus Ultra to keep a €4 million deposit in a tax haven until 2028, without deducting it from the bailout. The government allows Plus Ultra to tie up €4 million in a tax haven until 2028 and does not deduct them from the €53 million of state aid. This is one of the surprising conclusions of the report that the independent experts have sent to Judge Esperanza Collazos, who is investigating various offences in the rescue of the airline. In the expert report, to which El Mundo has had access, They state that Plus Ultra tries to meet the requirement of not having been in crisis before the pandemic with the strange participative loan from the Panamanian bank Panacorp. They consider it strange because of the 6.3 million of the loan. Plus Ultra cannot use more than 4 million, 3/4 of the capital loaned, because it is obliged to have them deposited and unavailable in an account in the Commonwealth Bank and Trust Limited, domiciled in the Caribbean island of Dominica, a tax haven for the tax agency. So the Plus Ultra scandal gets more and more complicated as the days go by and is still a real headache for the government. Now, we all know that the health situation here in Spain has improved quite a lot in recent times, but one Spanish newspaper today is warning that we're not out of the woods yet. As we can see here from this headline, pandemic not over yet. US and Russia suffer another wave of deaths and the UK of cases. Spain has reached low risk thanks to vaccination. However, the pandemic will not end until it is under control worldwide. This is a mantra repeated several times by the World Health Organization. There is no need to go to resource-poor countries where vaccines have not reached. Russia and the United States are experiencing a wave of deaths from the coronavirus. In the UK, cases are soaring. The worst epidemiological scenario of the above is in Russia. On Monday, it broke its daily infection record with 34,325 cases, according to government data. It has now been above 30,000 for 5 days. The trajectory is upwards. The summer marked the beginning of the new wave. It went from 8,000 in June to 25,000 just 1 month later. There are no hospital occupancy figures. So unfortunately, the pandemic clearly not over yet, with cases rising around the world. Now let's have a look at a summary of the health situation here in Spain. We can see that the accumulated incidence rate is down to 41.9 for the last 14 days. There are still 1,848 people hospitalized around the country with COVID, and there are 433 COVID patients in ICU. Now, there's been a lot of talk in recent times about the Spanish state pension system. Is it viable? Is it a sustainable system? Well, according to this article in Cinco Días, Spain is at the bottom of sustainable pension systems. The quality of the Spanish pension system, public and private, continues to leave much to be desired when compared with most European systems and those of other developed countries in the world. This is indicated by the latest edition of the Mercer CFA Institute Global Pension Index, which this year has analysed the old age insurance systems of 43 major countries around the world, in whose ranking Spain has remained more or less stagnant with respect to the previous year. Specifically, it was ranked 24th out of 43 systems examined, compared with 22 out of 39 countries in 2020. If we have a look at the global index, we can see that Iceland is in top spot, followed by the Netherlands, Denmark, Israel, Norway, Australia, Finland, Sweden, the UK, and Singapore. And if we have a look at Spain there on the right, we can see that it comes in position number 24 globally, but in position number 39 when it comes to sustainability. So Spain, the 4th worst country in the world when it comes to having a sustainable pension system. So what's the government waiting for to get the problem sorted when the data, as we just saw, is that bad? Now let's have a look at some of the comments from previous videos. One here from Marcus, 700,000 needed for the construction sector. What? It feels like we are driving at another property speculation bubble at full speed. Aren't there still thousands of empty or half-completed homes from the last unsustainable construction boom? Yeah, Marcus, thanks for the comment, and I do believe that there are still unsold homes from the last construction bubble that burst back in 2008-2009. We saw what happened back then to the Spanish economy, and figures seem to indicate that we're heading in the same direction. And yesterday we saw, as you pointed out in your comment, that Spain needs 700,000 construction workers to fill the gaps in the sector. But as we all know, Spain is awash with cash at the moment, and where's a lot of that money going? Into the construction sector. One here from KG Pox, Stu, you nailed another great report and suddenly got Brexit, democracy, rightist, leftist, hate. Now seems a great time for this quote. You still have never met the person you are about to divorce. Like economics, you can influence supply or demand, but not both. The current issues are a consequence of that democratic process. Own them, good and bad. Economics is a thing, respect it. P.S. This channel is about Spain. Stu would be doing a disservice if he didn't comment on the economic beauties brought about by Brexit as it impacts daily life in Spain. Yeah, thanks for the comment, and you're right, some of the things that I mentioned yesterday did stir up the comment section. I think I mentioned Gibraltar and the fact that some of the towns around that area are worried that negotiations between Brussels and London will lead to a hard Brexit, and therefore make it more difficult for people to cross the border. And some people understood those comments as Spain saying that it wants to regain control of Gibraltar. I've come to the conclusion that it doesn't matter what you say on some topics because people only hear what they want to hear, and they want to hear things that suit their narrative. And to be honest, I find it a shame that such issues are so divisive. One here from Adrian: someone should have told Biden Morrison's nickname. He thinks he's called that fella from down under. Yeah, Adrian, thanks for the comment, and obviously referring to that press conference a few weeks ago where Joe Biden couldn't remember Scott Morrison's name. And you're right, maybe they should have just told Joe Biden Morrison's nickname, ScoMo, or one of the many other names he goes by, for example, Scotty from marketing. And maybe we wouldn't have had that embarrassing situation. One here from Anne: we've just had a very enjoyable cruise along the River Daldo from Porto, which included a visit to Salamanca. What a lovely city. I don't know if you've been there, but it's well worth a visit if you're thinking of going somewhere different. Keep up the good work with the videos. Yeah, and thanks for the comment, and you're right, Salamanca is a lovely city. I haven't been there for a while, but it is on my list of places to go soon. There are still 2 or 3 big cities in Castilla and Leon where I am yet to film a video, and Salamanca is one of those. So it's just a question of me getting organised and hitting the highway and filming a video there. And it's also good to see that you enjoyed your trip along the Douro River from Portugal into Spain. One here from Toby O: oh man, I remember ETTA. I was a student in Madrid in 1980-81 and lived with a Spanish family near Moncloa. Every day at lunch the TV was on, and every day another bombing. Speaking of near misses, the day after I went to the student travel office, it was bombed. Yeah, nice to see ETTA is gone. And oh yeah, I was in Madrid during the attempted coup too, February 1981. Interesting time being a student in Madrid. Yeah, Toby, thanks for the comment, and I imagine that it was extremely interesting being a student in Madrid at that time. The 1980s here in Spain were a fairly tumultuous time, I believe. Lots of things happening, especially from a terrorist point of view, and also the attempted coup in 1981 that you mentioned there. And all I can say is thank heavens things have calmed down. One here from Knutsford House: really appreciate your news roundups. Learning the language, and do try to read the Spanish newspapers, but it's great to have the headlines explained and put into context. Only been living here 12 months, so trying to grasp the political landscape. A big thank you. Yeah, thanks for the comment, and glad to see that you appreciate the Spanish news roundups. Spain's a difficult country, in my opinion, to get a grasp of politically, and even after living here for more than 20 years, I struggle to understand what's going on. So keep learning the language, because as I always say, it's the only way that you can try to fully understand what's going on in this country. And finally, one here from Miguel: first you park your car and then you buy a house near where you parked. Yeah, Miguel, thanks for the comment, and referring to a comment that we saw yesterday from somebody who said that he had problems parking the car when he was in Spain recently. And it is a characteristic of cities in this country that parking can be difficult. But your comment has hit the nail right on the head. Here in Spain, it's better to do a lot of things back to front. On that note, I'll wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the video out as you normally do. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. We'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.